Great, I can see people are starting to join. I'll wait for a few minutes. A few more people come on. Great, a lot of people coming on. Fantastic. So tonight we've got Tiff's story, and it's quite interesting because Tiff first came on when COVID happened and the whole fertility world closed down, clinics included. And it was the first time in, well, forever that there was nothing you could proactively do because we didn't know what situation we were in with COVID. So I did a month's course just to sort of try and help women, give them some information and advice, etc. And Tiff was part of that. And she's now had her baby, and we're going to hear her story and also about what she did that helped her, because I think this is a huge learning curve for everybody. So hopefully she's going to join me very, very soon. I'll just wait for her to come on, or ask advice. Okay, I'm just waiting to see if I can see her at any point. But you're oh, this is her now. I think it's her. Okay. Hope she can come on. I am requesting. Oh, you're here.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Sorry, there we go. Hey.
So you found it easy, did you?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, when Instagram let me, it had, but yeah.
Yeah, because I hadn't realised, when I spoke to you this morning, I hadn't realised that your Instagram handle was different to what I thought. But thank you, Tiff, so much for coming on. I was just telling the listeners that are coming on that this is like a learning curve for everybody, and that you came on, followed me during the COVID and the course I was doing. So if you could just give us a potted history. First of all, start with the medical side. Like, you're 37, this was 2020, it's now 2023.
Yeah.
So what happened up to that point? How long had you been trying?
So 2018 was probably when we started, because we bought a house, got married, had a honeymoon, and anybody that knows me, I'm a bit of a planner. So in my head, I was like, I'm gonna have a.
Can you hear me? Oh, I'm so sorry, it's frozen here. Can everybody hear me? Oh, you're back on. Can you hear
Sorry,
now?
yeah, I can. Sorry, I must have lost
No,
signal. Sorry.
I think it was yours. I've got this incredibly fancy gadget, and it didn't work. So I've just gone back to the normal thing, and it's worked. Yes.
Okay.
So you were trying from 2018.
Yeah. So I thought I'd have a honeymoon baby, and then so we got married in the July, and then we tried every month, and then it got to a point where I was like, why is it not happening? So in March of 2019, we went to the doctors, and then that was so 2019 till March 2019 till December 19, we were in and out of hospital every 4 to 6 weeks for different appointments, because
On the
I
NHS,
found that on the
wasn't it?
yeah, NHS, yeah, on the NHS. So found out I wasn't ovulating. Then we needed to test Paul. He went through a load of tests. He went to endocrinology. He went to urology. We found out I wasn't ovulating. They did day 3 test, day 21 test. They lost some of Paul's samples. So we'd go to a meeting and the stuff wasn't there, or the notes didn't get transferred because we were in different hospitals for different things. And then they found out Paul didn't have his testes descended until he was 7 or 8.
Oh, right. Yes.
And they found out, they couldn't confirm, but the reason it potentially he was infertile. So in his samples, there was no sperm at all, and his testosterone was levels, but they wouldn't put him on testosterone because it had an impact of us doing potential IVF. So that was
But you,
like,
but Tiff, in that point, in that case, how was the news delivered to you? How were you feeling? Because you were obviously not naive, but you know, your honeymoon baby, life is going to follow a
yeah.
plan. Suddenly, wham! There's issues with you, and there's issues with him.
Um, there wasn't one appointment which my tribe will know was horrendous. We went to a gynecology appointment, and she just talked at Paul and was like, "You need a sperm donor." I was like, hang on a minute. I was like, what do you mean we need a sperm donor? Well, you need a sperm donor. I was like, but we haven't got that far yet. Like, what makes you think that? Well, there's no sperm in the sample. I was like, but what other things can you do before we get there? So that was a bit of a shock. That was a horrendous appointment,
And
to say the
how
least.
did Paul take it? Because that is really hard news to take for anyone, and a man
Yeah.
especially.
Paul is very chilled. He is a very chilled man, and I think we're very open and honest on each stage. We've had conversations and talked through it, and it was never a, like some couples go through we'll go and find somebody else to go and have a baby with somebody. That conversation never happened because we always work through things, and it was like, we do it together. We will do it together. Whatever together is, will work between us. I do think it hit him, but we also knew there was more appointments to come, and we had more chances and conversations to have with different people who could potentially shine light on it, because this was just the gynecologist who who it wasn't Paul's appointment, it was my appointment,
Yeah.
of just to tell me that I was going to go for IVF. So it was a bit like, I was more angry and shocked at the deliverance of that message
Yeah.
from her, because she's the gynecologist, not the urologist or endocrinologist
But
at the
also,
time. For
what is so important, it's not about having false hope, but
no,
once hope is taken away, there's nothing
no,
left. And, you know, you've got to feel, no matter what your situation was, that you were going to do everything in your possible power before you moved on to that sperm donor. But one of the
yeah,
other things, one of the reasons that you followed as well, I was doing one of the IGTVs on being overweight.
yeah,
Or whatever, and I was saying, you know, how hard it is for women that are overweight to be able to access
yeah,
IVF, because you had to lose how many kilos?
15,
You got you got three free IVFs,
yeah,
didn't you? But you had to lose the weight, and that's 15 kilos.
yeah, 15 kilos I needed to lose, and I had
That's
8 weeks.
a hell of a lot,
Yeah,
a hell of a lot. And you know,
to,
you can't just say go away and lose weight. What did you do?
um, I well, I did it because nobody tells
Yeah,
me that I don't do it, but
but you
I
don't,
spent,
that might be the reason you weren't ovulating as well,
yeah,
being overweight.
yeah, potentially. I went to the gym at 6 a.m. in the morning, to my
Yeah,
boxing gym. I'd run on
yeah.
a treadmill for 45 minutes, go home, get showered, then walk to work, which was about a mile and a half every day. And then I would do a 9 to 5 job, come home and walk home again. So I'd do at least 20,000 steps. And it was horrendous because you have to have that determination, but it's not sustainable. It wasn't sustainable, but it was needed for the point of when. And then I spent 2 hours every evening in the gym. I did a HIIT class, and I changed my diet. I went on a high protein. I was very strict with myself. I didn't allow myself to waver.
You
I
didn't
literally
have
ate,
any, no slippage, not sort of.
no, nothing. Gave up wine, gave up carbs, literally
And
dropped
how
the
much
weight.
did you lose? How much did you lose?
I lost, by the time we had the appointment, I'd lost the 15 kilos. So the appointment got moved because it was later in the year. It moved from it should have been like the end of August, and they moved it to mid-September.
Yeah.
And I lost the 15 kilos, and I dropped my BMI from 33.2 to 29.5, I believe I got it down to.
Oh my God, were they amazed?
Yeah, but it was the same appointment that the lady said that I needed a sperm donor, so she didn't really, she was just like, right, and I had to go to, because one of the issues which we found with the NHS, and I'm very grateful,
Yeah.
I'm not, is and people don't know this, is medical notes don't get transferred. So because we've been in 3 Northwest hospitals for different appointments, they didn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
So like the endocrinology didn't talk to oncology, gynecology didn't talk. So I would just get my notes from the doctors, because you had to go prepared with what test have you had done,
Yeah.
where are
Yeah.
you, where are you up to. So yeah, 2019 we were literally living every 4 to 6 weeks to an appointment with a different load of information that then either got us one step closer or took us back
And
one way.
how did you manage those appointments during the day when you were working, when you and Paul were working? Have you got jobs that you can leave easily for
Yeah,
appointments, or was that,
so
well,
we can't work wasn't ever a stress for both of us, because we were just very honest with our managers, and we were
yeah,
just like, I don't know how this is going to work out. Here's my appointments, and they were real. We cannot thank work enough for both sides of us, which is a nice. Not everybody has that luxury of
no,
work not being difficult. They were amazing. Not even throughout this year, like I've been in and out for different appointments. They've been like, ready, yet go, fine, no problem, and it's just
well, and
been, we
what
have
do
been
you do?
supported.
What do you
Um,
do for a living?
so I work for a bank and deal with customers who can't pay their mortgage. So I help customers stay in their house basically. And Paul
Yeah,
works in customer services as well. So it was quite flexible, because we knew and we could prove we had appointments, and they were really good. We couldn't fault them.
fantastic. So then you got pregnant.
Yeah. So 2021. So we had, obviously 2020 was in and out because of COVID. It was on hold and everything. So 2021, we got our drugs on our 3rd anniversary. So 23rd of July, got the drugs, busting, like absolutely amazing. Started the drug cycle. So this was our round 1 fresh cycle. And then got 7 eggs were collected, 6 were fertilised. We were left with 1, and 1 was frozen. So that was round 1.
And tell
Uh,
tell me about the sperm then. What ended up happening there?
So Paul had to go for a teasy. So
Yeah,
he went for a teasy.
which is
And they,
sperm from the testicle.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So he had to get the sample out. We had 7 straws, so they store the sperm in straws.
yeah,
So once he'd gone through the teasy, they confirmed it wouldn't be IVF, it'd be ICSI. So where they put my egg in a tray and 1 of Paul's sperms, and they inject it directly.
yeah,
So it's still IVF, it's just called ICSI. That's the only
yeah.
difference on it. So did all the drugs. So like July, August was in a cycle, fresh cycle. And to me, IVF is about, well, we can't get pregnant. IVF can get us pregnant. And in my head, I was like, well, the hardest thing to do is to get pregnant. 5th of September, we were pregnant, like just like that. I was like, I was on such a high, like we'd done it, we'd got where we needed to be, we'd achieved it. It was amazing. Then with IVF, you have to have a viability scan, sorry. So 28th of September, went for the scan. I say she, because I don't know what we would have had. I was 7 weeks, 4 days, but measuring 6'3". And I
Yeah.
was like, right. And they were like, well, the egg's splitting. We think you might be having twins, but we can't see a heartbeat in there. Can you come back next week? No other concerns, nothing to like put the fear of God in us or anything like that. It was just really like we just need to check on you. Can you come back next week? I was like, yeah, that's fine, no worries. So booked in on the 5th of October, and then 8 a.m. the world came crashing down. There was no heartbeat. There wasn't anything in the second sac. There was no heartbeat. We'd gone on this journey since 2019, been on hold because of COVID, and got pregnant, achieved what we were supposed to have done, and it was just horrendous. Like, you
How did
never expect.
how did you cope?
Um, Not very well, I don't think at all. I was in shock, and at the point of being scanned, the electric went off at the same point in the hospital, and I was like, "Oh, this is not ideal." But me and Paul were just in tears, like, and it made me think, because obviously when you go to appointments don't ever run on time, and you think, oh well, why are they late? You turned up on time, what's going on? But you don't actually know what that woman's going through. That woman's getting told something that could change her life. Like, And changed my mindset afterwards of being like, if they were an hour late for an appointment, they knew I was there.
That is such a good point, because like, you know, having the clinic, it was exactly the same.
Yeah,
You know, someone have a miscarriage, you can't just throw them out
no,
of the room without sort of saying anything. Very often there's nowhere else to take them because clinics are
no,
busy, and you have a duty of
yeah,
care, you know, to sort of get them home, and so it does cause delays. So it's interesting that you picked that up.
yeah. So after, like, we were in that room, I think, well, time just passed by. I don't even know how long we were in there, but it was horrendous. And then they gave us the leaflets. And at the time, I was against a medicated miscarriage because in my head of what that meant, what the perception of what a medicated miscarriage is. So I was like, I don't want that, or just let's go. And we both just walked out the room sobbing, like it was horrendous. Unfortunately we were in separate cars, so we couldn't even go home together because Paul was going to he didn't go to work, but Paul was going to go to work after the scan, and it just was like that. And then I
At this point, Tiff, had you told friends, work
yeah,
colleagues, parents?
yeah. So parents knew when we started the first round. My best mates knew. My sister knew. Everybody knew because they'd been on the journey with us for the whole of 2019, and they were like, "Yeah, this is great!" Like, and rooting for us, and they were all amazing. And then I had to then tell them 4 weeks later we're not pregnant, and that was mentally, emotionally, draining. I think that was potentially the hardest part to tell people who have been rooting for you because they just don't know what to say.
Yeah, and
They don't.
did work know as well?
And work knew, yeah, work knew at the time for us. So I remember ringing my boss, and because I work from home, and I was like, I can't come. I just cried at him. I was like, I can't come, and he was like, it's fine, just do whatever you need to do, and just thingy. So I took 2 weeks sick. I could have had longer, but for me that was right. That's what I felt I needed. So went in for a medicated miscarriage, and we were still amidst a bit of COVID, and Paul wasn't allowed to come up. Paul wasn't allowed in gynecology. So I sobbed. I was like, what do you mean he's not allowed here? Like, I'm having a miscarriage. And they were like, no, he's not allowed in. He'll have to go and sit in the car. And I was like, right, okay. So I said, is he allowed in recovery? Can he come and collect me from recovery? No, you'll have to wait and see him. So I left him at 11 a.m. and I didn't see him till 5:30 that day. And
Yeah.
he wasn't allowed in. He wasn't allowed in the hospital. He had to sit in the car, and he was like, I can't sit in this car. I'm going to go. We were under Liverpool Women, so he was like, I'm just going to go into Liverpool and round the corner. If you need me, ring me. But I can't sit in this car park waiting. It's horrible. So
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many stories like that
yeah,
during COVID. So anyway, then what happened? Let me just ask you as well,
yeah,
because for a lot of women, you know, when you're at your lowest point, sometimes that's when some learning goes on,
yeah.
or some intuition, knowledge comes up for you. How did you feel at your lowest point during those 2 weeks you were away from work?
I just didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know what to do. I was in pain. I was like, how has it not worked? Like, this is what IVF is supposed to do. Like, what have I not done right? Whatever. Was I a minute out? Like, you analyze every little second. Did I do that wrong? Should I have not exercised when I was on the drugs? Should I have not done this? Like, you literally criticize yourself, and it's that, like, well, why didn't it work? Because it worked. Why didn't it stick? Like, and you literally question everything. Could I have taken that vitamin differently? Could I have taken it? Everything changes. You just like, what could I have done more? What could I have done more to keep that baby? When you look back to it, there was a reason why that baby didn't stick, and I understand that. But at the point, I was like, just why? Why didn't it work? Why didn't it
Well, you
stay?
know, it's interesting, Tiff, as well, because I think that there's an expectation that, oh, we're doing IVF now and it's going to work, but IVF
Yeah,
doesn't have a huge percentage chance.
no,
It's not 100%, nowhere near.
no,
So that's what makes it hard as well, because women think, right, okay, great, it's gonna work.
yeah,
So then what happened? You had to pick yourself
yeah.
up. How did you pick yourself up to go back to work?
I went back to the gym. I just was like, okay, then, right, let's just crack on. I'm one of these. I'm not a my mates were like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm just like, "Let's go. Let's move on to the next bit. I can't change it. Let's keep going." So I threw myself back into the gym. I was like, "Right, let's focus." So we then went back and had a meeting in the April of 22. No, sorry. We went back in. When did we go back in? I think we went back in. We went back in the November, and they do a shutdown. So the clinic shut for Christmas, and you had to be on a cycle before a certain date. So I was like, right, well, we're done. We're done. I went back and looked at what vitamins I was taking. So obviously, I've said to yourself, I was on quite a lot of yours. I changed from folic acid to your folate, which I feel that
Yeah,
may have
yeah,
changed difference as well for, which was really good. So in November, we went back in, discussed the results, like what's different, because we had one frozen, so we were still on round one, and they were like, "Well, it's a three-month cycle on a frozen, or 2.5 months. This is the plan of action. You could do natural, but I wasn't ovulating and still not ovulating, so
yeah,
I chose to have medicated cycle,
yeah.
which I then
Do you
did
know, do
for
you know why? Do you know why you weren't ovulating? Because your weight went down. Was your thyroid okay?
yeah, thyroid, prolactin, FH, all for me to get onto IVF were fine, but even afterwards, I wasn't hitting the figures. I think, if I remember rightly, because I don't get obsessed with the figures, because you can just drive yourself nuts on figures when you're in IVF. I think my um, figure was 14.4 when they did a day 21, and it just wasn't
Yeah,
enough for me to trigger it for
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I had no blockages, I had no polycystic ovaries, I hadn't got any issues with my womb. It was just, I just wasn't producing enough to ovulate for it.
yeah.
Um, and so we went back in the January and did a frozen cycle, which I can only describe as like play Monopoly, and you have to pass each checkpoint before you pass go. That was a really long, tough 2.5 months, because I was down regulated, I was pushed into the menopause, I had several baseline scans, I was given drugs, as you normally are, and then I don't think I breathed until they said, yeah, your embryo's defrosted, you're fine, you can come in, you can have your implantation, because it was compared to a fresh cycle,
Yeah.
which was the 28 days, and then to go for like 2.5 months, I was like, oh, this is hard. And it was a
You with
mental,
one frozen
yeah,
embryo.
I had one. So they were still on round one at the minute. So I had one frozen. And then I start, I, when you did your lives about not testing early, there was no point. I really took that on board. And
You're probably
once that
about the
implant,
only one.
yeah, because it was one of them, what is the point? Like, it will either work or it won't. And testing 5 days early, why drive yourself nuts even more? So I was like, my form says test on this day, that's the date I test, and that's it. And it'll either work on that day or not. And I never fluctuated on that at all. It was like, what's the point of tormenting yourself? You go through enough
Yeah.
without adding that onto it as well. So unfortunately, the test date was day before Mother's Day, and I'd bled a couple of days before, and I just said to Paul, I don't think this is going to stick. I don't know. And he was like, just say you were aware you could bleed, and it were. So we were away with family. They didn't know we'd started a cycle again, because I took that off the plate. I was like, I can't go through telling people again, Paul, if it doesn't work. I said it's hard. So we kept it very close. I think I only told my best mate and my sister at the time. I was like, this needs to be a close like literally even parents didn't know, because I was like, I had such disappointment and guilt that I hadn't achieved what they wanted, in a lovely way. They're in a supportive way, but they want the same thing as you, and
Yeah.
that was really hard. And again, I peed on the stick, and it didn't work, so all drugs stopped. So again, just took stop through, and then we were hit in round two. So went back to see the consultant. They reviewed the drugs, and they decided, right, we're going to increase your drugs to hopefully get a better outcome, because I'd had 7 eggs collected but was only left with 2. And they
What
were
what
like,
was your AMH and your
I
actual
don't,
follicle?
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember for it.
Yeah.
My follicles on when I did round two, I had 5 on the right and I had 7 on the left when they went to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had more this time, and then we went on to round two in the June. I had 6 eggs collected, 6 got fertilized, which was brilliant, and then I had 1 implanted, and I had 3 in the freezer at that time. So I had a better chance on round two with the eggs that I got. I did a fresh cycle for round one of part two, and it was negative straight away. And that cycle for me was very like, I'm just doing the process. I wasn't connected. I'd lost faith in myself, not the process.
What stories were you telling yourself, Tiff?
More like, why won't it? I was probably still penalising myself for the miscarriage of like, well, I've done it once, why won't it work again? And I think because round 1.2 didn't work, I was like, well, why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? Like, is it going to work again? And I was just so demotivated, I would say.
Yeah.
And I didn't trust myself that I could do it, because it was that hope of, well, what if it doesn't? And I've got to let myself down again and letting other people down as well. So that was probably the hardest bit. So when round like 2.2 or 2.1 even, should say, didn't work, I went in a downward spiral, and I just was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep putting ourselves through it. I was living quite a blinkered life. I'd lost connection with Paul. We weren't doing date nights. We weren't doing the fun things because we were on this IVF. We wanted this, and everything else just went out the window.
Because what I find, women lose their confidence, their
Yeah,
creativity, their ability to connect, and that's why
yeah,
the heart is a very important part of what I do.
yeah, definitely. And I remember you saying, like, in COVID, like, don't lose yourself. Like, when you were asking like the questionnaire of like, well, what do you do what's your downtime? And when people say the gym, and you're like, no, what do you do for you? Like, what do you do for you? And I was like, I've done nothing for me. I've literally put my body through whatever it's needed to do because I want this so bad. And it just, I just lost hope. I just lost I felt disappointment, and I've never failed at anything I've put myself through. I've always achieved it, and because I hadn't, I was like, what's going on? Like, I've never not achieved my goals, whatever they've been. I've always gone it. So I took some time out. So I have Reiki, so I did a lot of inner work, and I believe in spirituality. So I took some time out and went on a retreat in the August, and took 4 days of just getting back to me and being, what did I need? Like, I needed to work on me and why I wasn't happy, and what could I do to put myself in a better position, in a mindset, because in between finishing the last cycle, Paul's mum had died, so we had that to deal with. So it was like I didn't have a chance to process, really, lose not another cycle working. So I took the time off.
Grief has a big impact
Yeah,
on when they lose a mother, a
yeah,
father, a relative. Your whole body shuts down.
yeah.
But what did you do to motivate yourself then? I know you went on the retreat, but what was
Yeah.
the process that brought you back to connect?
I think it was just connecting back to me and be like, I am capable. I can get pregnant. I've been pregnant. This will work. I just need a break. I just need to get back to enjoying my life that I'd created, and being like, if this doesn't work, am I happy with the job I'm in? Do I like the fact I've got 2 dogs, a husband, the holidays we have? Because when you're in IVF, as much as you go on holiday and you do your things, that they're not that enjoyable, because you're on another mindset of IVF, IVF, IVF.
That's why it drives me mad when people say you've got to stay in the present. It's impossible. When you're
Yeah,
trying for you're looking at the future as well. And I think it's ironic that you're young. You started off this journey really
yeah,
young,
32.
and yeah,
Started 32.
the fear factor comes in, and that means that you shut down and you don't grow. You don't grow on any level.
No.
You don't grow relationshiply, career-wise,
No.
nothing. You're just stuck in a a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
basically.
And like life was planned, like if we went out, like I've injected in a cinema, right? Like because you want to be do them things, but it's like I'm gonna got a plan where you had to every minute of my life was planned, and I am a planner, but I've been not dictated, that's wrong, but like I was on the journey of, well, it needs to be done at this time because this has then an impact if I don't do it. So it was I needed to do. I needed a break. I
Yeah,
just needed a break. I was like, I'm done. I can't go again. So me and Paul had the conversation. I was like, are you happy? Like, because it, as much as Paul doesn't go through it, he is my rock. He is the emotional support. He sees what people don't see. He sees the marks on my skin. He sees the bruises. He sees the bleeding. Like he saw it all, and he's witnessed that, and it was tough on him. And I was like, we just need a break. I need to get back to enjoying our life, because if it doesn't work, this is us, and are we happy with us? As in everything, not just us as a marriage, us
yeah,
as everything we've done. So from the August, we went back to see the consultant after everything, and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to go back on it. I was like a break. And the discussion was then to have what's called an Emma and Alice test. Unfortunately, it's not funded by the NHS, and we did need to pay for it. At the time, it's probably the best money we've ever spent, but you don't know it. And we didn't spend it knowing this would fix it either. It was, this is a potential option that could give us more insight and tailor our IVF to us rather than statistics or
yeah,
drug calculation, basically. So I went through that. So the A test was a mock cycle with no implantation at the end of it. I failed the Emma test. It came back at 81%, so I needed to go on probiotics. The Alice test was negative, which means I passed it. And then the A showed that they needed to give me 12 hours worth more of drugs. So I needed to go from 120 hours to 132 hours worth of the drug cycle on it. The results came back in September. I went back in the October for the results, and I was like, we're still on pause. I'm not ready. I want to enjoy Christmas. I want to enjoy carrying. I've gone back to the gym. Because unfortunately the drugs put weight on you,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
which you don't realise at the time, but they do, because I was like, I've put on weight. I wasn't happy. So I was like, right, I'm going back to the gym. I'm going to enjoy my life. So went back, and then in the December, I phoned the clinic and said, I want to start in January. Can we make sure the drugs are delivered? Can we get the next step? So hit January 23. So we've been on this since like 2019. Drugs got delivered. I started it. So it was agreed that I would be doing a frozen cycle, but on a short cycle. I was like, I can't do 2.5 months again. That's too much. I was like, I'm done. You can't put. So we agreed we would do a frozen cycle, but we would do it on 28 days
yeah,
of the drugs. And we would, if I got pregnant again, we would stay on the drugs until I got to 12 weeks. So drugs started 10th of January. My implantation was based on my A test. So they put me in on the 27th, and it just felt different. I felt different. I felt not medicalised. I felt connected to me. I was very much like, this is going to work. And I just had this feeling of, I just know, like, I just know. Again, didn't test till test day. And it was quite funny because I woke up at 3 a.m. just needing the loo. And I woke Paul up and went, I'll do the test now. I said, because whether I do a test now or 7 a.m. when I wake up for work, the answer's going to be the same. So I went in the loo, peed on the stick in the dark. I remember just peed in the dark. I was like, well, it's either going to work or it's not, and I'm going to know. Paul came in, Paul was sat up in bed with the light on. I went, we're pregnant. Like, just dead chilled about it. I was like, we're pregnant. He was like, well, you said we were. And I went, I knew. I just knew. It felt different. And I'd done a lot of work within myself, worked on me, did a lot of stuff that I could control, because you can't control IVF.
no,
I watched what was going into my body, what made difference. And then 28th of Feb, we went to the viability scan. which did bring up some like,
Yeah.
oh God, here we
Was
go again. What if they don't
it,
discharge us? Pardon?
was it the same place? Was it the same place?
Yeah, so yeah, same hospital. We weren't discharged from it at all. So back
Yeah.
into the women's, and then go to the viability scan, and they're like, "Yeah, heartbeat's 100 and whatever. Yeah, you're fine. Strong heartbeat, no issues. We're going to discharge you." I was like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you can go back to community. You've done everything you need to do. We're happy with this. We don't need to keep you. We'll give you some more drugs." Because at the time I was on, is it Cyclogest, I think it's called,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also and still injecting as well. So that was that. We bounced out that room like we floated, and me and Paul always take selfies, and it's our little thing when we go for appointments, a selfie in the lift, and there's a picture of me and Paul in the lift with the scan picture, and then it's like, wow, like this, and we were both smiling with joy because we just knew it would work. And then, so I was discharged at 7 weeks, 2 days, went back into the community, had a 12-week scan. We got to 12 weeks, which was brilliant. We told my best mate and my sister knew, but the only two that knew on the date of peeing on a stick. And then we started telling people a little bit early, and everybody was a bit like, oh, I was like, I told Helen, who does my Reiki, because we were supposed to go away, and unfortunately we got snowed in. We were supposed to go to a hot tub. Obviously I wouldn't have gone in the hot tub at the time. So I invited them round for dinner and like told them, and they were like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, we're pregnant. It was just the most amazing feeling ever. And not to have the fear of, oh, it might not work. I was like, this is just lovely. This is going to work. Hit the 12-week scan. When we went to 12-week scan, they were actually saying he's measuring bigger. He's actually 12 weeks 5. I was like, right. So we skipped sort of a week, which was lovely. It's like, oh, we've got to 13, got to 20-week scan. Obviously, I'm classed as geriatric as well as obese. So I was like, I had to do the Gestar diabetes test, pass that. And then I've had the most amazing pregnancy.
How
like,
many weeks are you now? Because you're due
I
very
am,
soon.
yeah, 38 weeks on Friday I was.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was just, and I just throughout the pregnancy I've just taken a week by week. So I've gone from
Yeah.
Friday to Friday, and I've been very lucky. Like, I've had I've had the normal heartburn, sleepless nights, the normal things that you get, and it's just been lovely to be here, and knew it would work. But I think IVF is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah.
Is probably my best advice to anybody that's
And
going through it.
what would you say the things that you did, just in a nutshell, to help women? You know, so the motivation part was you doing a lot of work on
Yeah,
yourself and control, that you knew what you had control over,
yeah,
so you were able to control that. And I often say that to women: you can't control if and when you get pregnant,
no,
but you can control what you put in, what you do
yeah.
to de-stress and everything like that.
I think for me, I think knowledge is power. And I've said to you, like, I've read your books, and they were dead helpful, but I took from them. And when you did your lives, I took for them what felt right for me. But then it's using that knowledge to help empower you, know you're capable. So your mindset definitely has to be there. Having a tribe that you trust and
Yeah.
who are there no matter what, I would definitely say. And build yourself up, because as much as you could read as many books as you want, my story will be different to
Yeah.
somebody else's
And
story, and it's just knowing.
yeah, it's the difference in stories, isn't it? I thought it was a
Yeah,
lovely gesture you did, leaving the books in toilets
yeah,
and in lifts and in different
yeah.
places with messages. Yeah,
Well, it's
such a
something different because unfortunately, the IVF is a lonely journey. It really is, because you don't know what you're going to experience or go through,
yeah.
and nobody can prep you for that. Like, no book can do that.
No,
But like, I just, and I remember, like, there's a forum for there's a Facebook page for the women, and one lady had found a book I'd put on it, and she didn't know it was me, and I didn't comment to say it was me, and she just put, whoever's in put that book in that I left today, thank you so much, I needed that today. And it was just nice, because somebody that's been in that position, you can read as many books as you want, but it's not going to tell you exactly how you feel or
yeah.
what you're going to experience,
And that's what
but it just gives
I
them.
think for a lot of women today. You know, I've been a midwife for 40 odd years. What's happening today is women are losing connection with themselves. They're not relying on their own intuition or
Yeah,
wisdom because they're so
yeah,
panicked. They're in sort of such a state fear. They're in protection mode the whole time and on
yeah,
Dr. Google. And sometimes it's just sitting back and really trying to work out for yourself what you need to do as an individual, what
yeah,
your circumstances are.
yeah. And it is. And I think because you go through that phase of like losing trust in yourself because all the other women around you were getting pregnant. Like I remember one of Paul's cousins getting pregnant and I cried. I was happy
Yeah,
for them, but I was like, they can get pregnant and that's all I want, but nobody knew what was going on. And it you doubt yourself because it's the most naturalist thing for a woman to want those that want kids. And then when you can't have it, you go through that criticism and doubt and why didn't it work for me? And you really do rip yourself apart. But actually, you've got to then pull yourself out of it to go, right, yes, I am very lucky that I've had the opportunity to have 3 funded cycles. We've still got 1 left. We've still got 2 embryos in the freezer. We haven't made a choice. I am pregnant. We've had a healthy pregnancy. You've just got to take your moments for them bits then and enjoy them bits that you do, and you will get there. You
but you
will
know what's
actually
great
get there.
about you as well, Tiff. You've got, you've built up real resilience, grit. You're determined, and that's so important as well. It's so easy just to slip back and do
Yeah,
nothing. And one of the things that you said was about whether you're, end up not having a family. You've got you and your husband. But if you were coming to me, I would have told you exactly the same things as
yeah,
you, but I wouldn't have let you give up. Not at 37. Not
no,
having got eggs and got pregnant. We would have found a way to sort of help you through it and
yeah,
support you, which
yeah.
is important.
Yeah, and like we can't fault them. Like every nurse that we've touched, or
Yeah,
they've been brilliant. It's just that journey before where you're going through testing, and the left doesn't know what the right's doing, and you are literally in limbo. And you're going to an appointment, and they're going, "Well, we can't see your notes because you went to a different hospital." And I was like, "Oh, I can't be dealing with this." So I just used to go to the doctors, and every time a letter went into the doctors, I'd go, "Right, can you print it off? Can I have that from them?" And they knew as soon as I came to the reception, I didn't want an appointment. I wanted my notes, and I requested them, and I still carry around them today
yeah.
because you
Well, you
just
need to
don't
be.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and it is.
It's been so wonderful having you on, and I hope you'll come back on with a baby in a
Yeah,
couple of months' time.
I will do. I can't wait for him to be. We're going for all being well. We're going for a home birth, which will be lovely. Because my thingy was, I might not have been able to conceive him naturally, but I can definitely birth him on my own. So I'm gonna have literally all being well. The pool's going up tonight, so we'll have a home birth, all being well. But he'll arrive when he arrives, and as long as he's
Yeah.
safe and well, that'd be great. But yeah, I can't wait for him to be here. It's been lovely, and I'm driving everybody nuts because I'm not telling anybody my due date, and I'm like, because it's just a date. It's just a date they've picked, and he might arrive, and he might not arrive on that day. So let's just see him when he arrives. But this month, I will have a baby boy, and I can't wait to be a mum, and Paul can't wait to be a dad either, which is lovely. Like it's really, really lovely.
No, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, and I'm
You're
sure
very
you've helped so
welcome.
many on here. Um, and thank you all for listening. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks with more IGTVs. But just looking forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, and thank you. I know I've said this and we've privately messaged, but you don't realise what you did for them women in COVID who were on a treadmill, who the world stopped and they stopped all fertility. You gave us such hope in such really dark
And
times
make
of not knowing.
cry now.
But it's true though, and like Anna, I said this to you, like you make you made something so that was so difficult at the time of just giving us knowledge to take what we needed from it, but you really did help women. Like, and I know it's sometimes like it's hard just talking to a screen, but you are making a difference to women all over, and it's lovely. And it was just a nice to say thank you. Like, you don't know what you did, but you had such an impact during that time, and it was a very dark time for a lot of women to have
Yeah,
their hopes and dreams stopped on something nobody knew how long this pandemic was going to happen. So yeah, I
yeah.
really do appreciate what you did. I genuinely mean that as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiff. But anyway, I'll say goodbye to you
Yeah,
now. Get to bed early, rest, and we'll get you back on when you've had the baby. I'm sure
yeah.
all of these will to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope obviously it's helped somebody else. Just remember you can do it, and just keep yourself connected would be my best advice. Keep yourself connected to yourself.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Tiff, so much. Okay, goodbye, ladies, and I will see you in a week or so's time.